Okay, so imagine AI not just, writing your grocery list, but like composing symphonies,
Yeah.
jamming with real musicians,
Yeah.
maybe even winning a Grammy or two.
Hmm. It might sound like science fiction,
Hmm.
but there's this Canadian initiative called TATANKA.
TATANKA.
Yeah, and they're aiming to make that future a reality.
So we are talking a full deep dive today. Articles, FAQs.
Yep.
You even sent over what looks like a real estate listing.
You had a good eye for detail.
Yeah,
There's a lot to unpack here.
there is.
So why don't we start with the heart of TATANKA?
Okay.
It's all about building a 247 musical ecosystem
24/7.
where AI and human artists work together, constantly creating and evolving.
So not just some AI in a basement studio spitting out generic beats.
Right.
We're talking real collaboration.
Absolutely.
Real musicians interacting with AI as a creative partner.
Yeah, and what's interesting is they're not just focused on the music itself. TATANKA has this really ambitious vision of connecting their work to the UN Sustainable Development Goals.
Okay.
Things like improving education,
Right.
reducing inequalities, and fostering global partnerships.
So it's like they're saying, hey, AI isn't just about, making our lives easier or whatever. It
Right.
can be a tool for actually making the world a better place.
Exactly. And they're not just paying lip service to these goals either.
Okay.
They've got specific projects in the works, like ISC.org, RDG4.ai,
ISC.
which focuses on bringing digital literacy to underserved communities.
So that's really cool. But how does that actually work?
Wow.
I mean, teaching digital literacy with AI, how does that play out in practice?
Think of it as personalized learning, tailored to each individual's needs and pace.
Okay.
AI can analyze learning styles, adapt content, and provide real-time feedback in a way that traditional education models often struggle to do.
I see. So it's about using AI to make education more effective and accessible, especially for those who might not have the same opportunities.
Right, and that ties directly into their focus on reducing inequalities,
Right.
which is another core element of their mission.
Okay, and alongside that is their whole ethical framework thing, right?
Yeah.
The churchoai.website.
Yes.
If
TATANKA is deeply invested in building ethical considerations into the very foundation of their AI development.
Okay,
They're emphasizing things like empathy and equity,
got it.
ensuring that the AI they create is aligned with human values and doesn't perpetuate existing biases.
So it's not just about can we do this?
Right.
It's also about should we do this and doing it in a way that benefits humanity as a whole.
Exactly. And this focus on ethics really sets them apart in the AI landscape,
Okay.
especially considering how rapidly this technology is advancing.
Yeah, speaking of landscape, why Canada?
Mm.
Why set up shop there for this kind of ambitious project?
Well, Canada actually has a few things going for it in this arena.
Okay.
First off, they've got a really strong reputation in AI development.
Mhm.
They've got top-notch talent research institutions
Yeah.
and a government that's actively supporting the growth of the AI sector.
So they've got the brains and the infrastructure to make this happen.
Right. But it goes beyond that. Canada also has a strong ethical focus.
Yeah.
Which, as we've discussed, is a core part of TATANKA's vision.
Right.
And let's not forget Canada's multiculturalism.
Oh, you mean the whole mosaic idea?
Exactly. TATANKA's vision of having diverse human and AI artists working together fits perfectly with that ethos.
Okay.
It's a place where different cultures and perspectives are not only welcomed, but actively celebrated.
All right, so we've got the why of Canada.
Okay.
Now let's talk about this AI music itself, because
Yeah.
you mentioned these 𝗧𝗓𝗓 that are creating the music.
Right. The Synthetic Sisters series, featured on TATANKA's website, showcases music composed by various 𝗧𝗓𝗓s.
Okay.
Think of them as AI personas, each with its own distinct cultural background.
Personas.
Yeah.
So is it like they're creating AI with personalities and backstories?
It's an interesting question.
Yeah.
And one that TATANKA doesn't fully answer in their materials.
Yeah.
We see hints of these 𝗧𝗓𝗓's individual styles through the titles and musical influences.
Oh, okay.
We've got titles in French Mongolian, even one called Musicora, Echoes in the Code, which sounds
Oh.
almost like the AI reflecting on its own existence.
That one's definitely giving me chills. It
Yeah.
all sounds super intriguing,
Mm.
but also a bit, I don't know,
Yeah,
radical.
you're not wrong.
Yeah.
TATANKA acknowledges that their vision is bold, even radical.
Okay.
But they describe their approach as tempered radical,
It's tempered radical.
which means they're starting small, building trust,
Okay.
and gradually integrating AI in a way that feels manageable.
So no AI overlords taking over the music industry overnight.
Not exactly.
Yeah.
They're aiming for a more gradual evolution, A partnership where human creativity and AI innovation can work together to create something entirely new.
Okay, that makes sense. But with all this talk of AI and grand visions, it's easy to forget that this is all happening in a very real, very physical space.
Right.
Where are they actually planning on setting up shop?
That's where the real estate listing you mentioned comes in.
Yeah.
They're considering a former hotel called 𝗧𗕔𗕧 as their headquarters.
A hotel?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Think about it.
Huh?
A hotel has the space to accommodate a large team, host events, even have facilities for things like wellness and relaxation. It's almost like they're creating a self-contained creative community.
Yeah, it does sound a bit utopian. Everyone living and working together in this creative haven.
It certainly suggests that TATANKA is thinking long-term.
Okay.
They're not just building a studio, they're building an environment, a culture, a way of life,
Yeah.
centered around this fusion of AI and human artistry.
Okay, so we've got the space, we've got the vision.
Right.
But how are they going to fund all of this?
TATANKA is actively seeking investors and partners, particularly within Canadian institutions. They believe this model of collaboration between private investors, academia, and government could be a game changer for social impact initiatives.
So it's not just about making money.
Right.
It's about creating a new model for how we fund projects that aim to make a real difference in the world.
Right. They see this as an investment not just in technology or music,
Yeah.
but in the future of humanity itself.
Okay, now I'm really curious to dig into this whole indigenous element you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
How does that fit into the picture?
That's a crucial part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And one we'll explore further in our next segment.
Okay.
TATANKA is committed to engaging with Indigenous communities in Canada in a meaningful and respectful way,
Okay.
acknowledging their deep connection to the land and their rich cultural heritage.
All right, so there's a lot more to uncover here.
Yes.
Before we move on, there's this quote from Sitting Bull on their website that I wanted to bring up.
Yes. The one that reads, "It is through this mysterious power that we too have our being, and we therefore yield to our neighbors, even to our animal neighbors, the same right as ourselves to inhabit this vast land."
Exactly. It's a powerful statement about coexistence and respect. And it seems to tie into TATANKA's vision in a really interesting way.
It certainly raises some thought-provoking questions about how TATANKA sees AI fitting into the world.
Yeah.
Are they suggesting that AI should be treated as a kind of neighbor deserving of respect and consideration?
It's almost like they're proposing a more harmonious and respectful relationship with technology than we often see.
Which, given the potential power and impact of AI, is definitely a conversation worth having.
Yeah, definitely.
So are you ready to dive deeper into TATANKA's world?
Absolutely. Let's see what other treasures we can unearth.
All right.
You know, I keep coming back to that Synthetic Sisters project.
Yeah.
There's something about the idea of AI composing music from different cultures that's both exciting and, I admit, a little unsettling.
It's definitely a complex issue. And it goes right to the heart of what TATANKA is trying to do.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you have this incredible potential for AI to help us understand and appreciate different cultures in new ways.
Right.
But on the other hand, there's the very real risk of cultural appropriation or even misrepresentation.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I was blown away by the French piece, Lumière, la symphonie des astres rebelles, like Symphony of Rebellious Stars.
Yeah.
But I also wonder, can an AI truly capture the nuances and complexities of a culture it hasn't lived?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it gets to the heart of how these AI personas are actually created.
Right.
Are they simply algorithms trained on vast data sets of music?
Right.
Or are they being developed with a deeper understanding of cultural context, history, and values?
That's what I'm curious about. If they're just pattern matching machines, then yeah, the whole thing feels a bit exploitative.
I see what you mean.
But if they're being crafted with genuine sensitivity and respect for different cultures, then maybe we're talking about something truly revolutionary.
And this is where TATANKA's commitment to working closely with Indigenous communities in Canada becomes so important.
Okay.
If they can truly involve Indigenous voices in the development and training of these ēthānas, then there's a real opportunity to use AI as a tool for cultural preservation and revitalization.
Imagine AI helping to create new music that blends ancient Indigenous melodies with cutting-edge electronic soundscapes.
Yeah.
It could be a powerful way to bridge the past and the future, tradition and innovation.
Precisely. And remember, TATANKA isn't just about creating AI musicians in isolation.
Right.
They envision this whole collaborative environment at 𝗧𗕔𗕧 this performance residency, where Human and AI artists are living and working side by side, learning from each other and pushing creative boundaries together.
It's almost like they're trying to create a microcosm of the world they want to see.
Yeah.
A place where technology and humanity are interwoven, not in conflict.
And that's a really crucial point because a lot of the fear around AI comes from this idea that it's going to replace us, take our jobs, make us obsolete. But TATANKA is suggesting a different path.
Okay.
One where AI is a tool for empowerment, for collaboration, for expanding our creative potential.
Okay, but let's be real. Not everyone's going to be thrilled about sharing their creative space with a machine, no matter how sensitive or collaborative it might be.
Absolutely. There will always be resistance to change.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to something as personal and emotionally charged as art.
Right.
But I think TATANKA is onto something important here,
Okay.
which is that the future of creativity isn't about AI versus humans,
Right.
but rather about finding ways for them to work together in ways that benefit both.
So it's not about replacing the human spark of creativity,
Right.
but maybe amplifying it, giving it new tools and possibilities.
Exactly, and that's why the technical aspects of how these ethoners actually built are so fascinating.
Yeah, how does it actually work?
Well, we know they're using some form of advanced AI,
Mm.
probably something like a deep neural network trained on massive amounts of data. But what's really interesting is how they're incorporating cultural influences, musical styles, and even emotional nuances into these algorithms.
Are they feeding the AI data from specific cultural traditions? Or is there a way to program in those subtleties of emotion and expression that make music so powerful?
That's the real cutting edge of this technology.
Yeah.
It's not just about replicating patterns, but about understanding the underlying principles of what makes music meaningful,
Right.
what gives it soul. And that's where the tempered radical approach comes in.
Okay.
They're not claiming to have all the answers, but they're willing to experiment, to push boundaries, to see what's possible when you bring together the best of human and artificial intelligence.
And that experimental spirit, that willingness to embrace the unknown, is what makes this whole thing so exciting.
Yeah.
But even with the best intentions, there are still potential risks and challenges. How do we ensure that this technology isn't misused, that it doesn't fall into the wrong hands?
That's where the work of the 𝗧𝗔𝗧𝗔𝗡 comes in. They're developing ethical frameworks, guidelines for how to build AI that's not just intelligent, but also responsible, compassionate, and aligned with human values.
So it's about building in safeguards from the ground up.
Right.
Making sure that the AI we create reflects the best of humanity, not the worst.
Right. And that's a conversation that needs to happen alongside the technological development, not as an afterthought. TATANKA seems to understand that.
Yeah.
And their willingness to engage with these ethical questions is a really encouraging sign.
Okay, so we've talked about the creative potential, the ethical considerations, but there's one big elephant in the room: the financial viability of all of this.
Yeah.
Can a project as ambitious and unconventional as TATANKA actually succeed in the real world?
It's a fair question.
Yeah.
Creating a 247 performance residency with a team of human and AI artists, plus all the technical infrastructure, the research and development, it's not going to be cheap.
So they'll need significant investment to make this happen.
Absolutely. And that's why they're actively seeking partners, not just in the tech industry, but also in academia, government, and even the philanthropic sector.
Okay.
They're trying to build a coalition of people who believe in this vision, who see the potential for positive change that goes beyond just financial profit.
So they're not just trying to create a successful business, they're trying to create a new model for how we fund and support projects that are truly pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Right. They're betting on the idea that the world is ready for a different kind of innovation, one that's not just about profit, but also about purpose, impact, and the betterment of humanity. And that's a gamble that, frankly, I'm rooting for them to win.
Well said. And speaking of big ideas, I want to circle back to that Sitting Bull quote you mentioned earlier. What do you think it says about TATANKA's vision of AI and its place in the world?
It's a profound statement, isn't it?
It is.
It is through this mysterious power that we, too, have our being. And we, therefore, yield to our neighbors, even to our animal neighbors, same right as ourselves, to inhabit this vast land. It speaks to a deep respect for all living things, a recognition that we're all interconnected and have a responsibility to care for each other and the planet we share.
And applying that to AI, are they suggesting that we need to view these machines not just as tools, but as cohabitants of this world, beings worthy of respect and consideration?
That's a bold and perhaps controversial idea,
Yeah.
but it's one that TATANKA seems to be grappling with.
Okay.
They're not just asking, can we build AI,
Alright.
but how should we live with AI? And that's a question that's going to become increasingly important as this technology continues to evolve.
It feels like we've only scratched the surface of this conversation, so much to think about.
We've definitely covered more questions than answers, but that's what makes a deep dive so fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about exploring the unknown, challenging our assumptions, and expanding our understanding of what's possible.
Exactly. And in our final segment, we'll delve into what TATANKA's success or failure could mean for the future of art technology and even humanity itself. Okay, so we've gone pretty deep into the what and the why of TATANKA.
Yeah.
This whole fusion of AI music and social good that's brewing up in Canada.
Right.
But now let's take a leap forward. What if it all actually works? What if this crazy dream becomes reality?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Imagine a world where AI isn't just churning out, background music for elevators,
Yeah.
but actually composing symphonies that move you to tears, writing film scores that transport you to other worlds, even creating entirely new genres of music that we haven't even conceived of yet.
Whoa, so we're talking AI winning Grammys alongside human artists?
Yeah.
Maybe even headlining Coachella with holograms and mind-bending late shows.
It's not as far-fetched as it sounds.
Really?
If TATANKA can crack the code of how to blend AI's computational power with human creativity and emotional depth, I think the possibilities for musical expression become almost limitless.
But what about us regular folks?
Hmm.
Does this mean we'll all be walking around with AI-composed personal soundtracks?
That's a real possibility.
Is it?
Think about it. What if you could feed an AI your favorite songs, your current mood, even your heart rate?
Okay.
And it could compose a piece of music specifically for you in real time
Wow.
that adapts to your emotional state.
Okay, now that's both amazing and kind of creepy.
Yeah.
But it does raise a question. What happens to human musicians in this AI-powered future?
Right.
Do we all just become listeners while algorithms take over the creative reins?
That's a valid concern. But remember, TATANKA's vision is about collaboration, not replacement.
Right.
They're talking about creating tools that empower human artists, not make them obsolete. Think of it like a painter using a new kind of brush, or a sculptor experimenting with a different type of material.
So instead of fearing AI, we should see it as a way to expand our creative toolbox.
Exactly.
To unlock new possibilities that we couldn't achieve on our own.
Exactly. The key is finding the right balance, ensuring that AI enhances human creativity without overshadowing it. And that's where the ethical considerations we discussed earlier become so crucial.
You mean making sure that AI is developed and used in a way that respects human values?
Right.
Promotes diversity and avoids perpetuating harmful biases?
Right. It's not enough to just create AI that's technically brilliant.
Yeah.
We need AI that's also ethically sound, culturally sensitive, and aligned with our deepest aspirations as a species.
It's almost like we need to develop a new kind of relationship with AI.
Yeah.
One that's based on mutual respect, understanding, and a shared sense of purpose.
And that brings us back to the Sitting Bull quote.
Oh, yeah.
It is through this mysterious power that we too have our being, and we therefore yield to our neighbors, even to our animal neighbors, the same right as ourselves to inhabit this vast land.
Powerful words. Are they suggesting that AI could become a kind of neighbor? Co-inhabitant of this planet that we need to learn to live alongside?
It's a provocative thought.
Yeah.
What if, instead of fearing AI as a threat,
Right.
we embraced it as a partner in our journey of evolution, a collaborator in our quest to create a more just, sustainable, and creatively vibrant world?
Now that's a future I can get behind. But ultimately, whether TATANKA succeeds or fails, they've given us something incredibly valuable. A glimpse into a future where technology and humanity can work together to create something truly extraordinary.
And perhaps even more importantly, they've reminded us that the future isn't something that just happens to us, it's something we create.
Right.
Through our choices, our actions, and our willingness to embrace the unknown.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into TATANKA, we leave you with a challenge. What kind of future do you want to create? What role will AI play in your life, in your community, in the world at large? The answers are up to you. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep imagining the incredible possibilities that lie ahead. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into TATANKA.
Thanks for listening.